All right, we're back at Realcomm Live. Good to be back on the stage. First time since the conference started, and couldn't ask for a better guest. Sandeep, how are you?
Great, how are you?
Good. So before we get started, why don't you give the audience just a little bit of your background in case they don't know, and then once we do that, we're going to dive right in.
Sure, so Sandeep Davé, I oversee all things digital and technology for CBRE, and CBRE is the world's largest commercial real estate services investment and brokerage firm, so keeps me busy.
Yeah, I mean, I literally have been working with CBRE for 25 plus years. Goes all the way back to a technology training program we did for brokers in 32 cities. I was, at the time, Gary Beeben was their CEO. I was in more offices that year than Gary was. So I have a long history with CBRE, a great organization, great reputation, first-class organization, so you found a good home. So we talked a little bit in the general session about scalability. I mean, I've been doing this, my career, tech career is probably 35 years, and there was always a cadence, a speed of innovation. The laggards always stay behind and the early adopters jump. But in my career, I have not seen technology change as fast with as much potential impact. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think we are definitely seeing that. Well, we've always said change is the only constant, but the pace of change has definitely accelerated with the introduction of several new technologies, but especially AI and the pace at which those technologies have been accelerating. But at the same time, I think the appetite for technology, the power of converting data into insight and knowledge, that appetite has also dramatically changed, which is also driving a change in the industry overall.
So before we get into the discussion on scalability, I mean, given the size of the assets that you manage globally, as we talked about earlier, the cultures, the age of the building, the processes, the different understanding of technology, right? How do you deal with all these variables that can absolutely impact how fast a certain technology can be installed and or adopted? I mean,
certainly, Jim, as you said, we manage over 7 billion square feet.
7 billion.
And in that, 7 billion with a B, and in that there is every kind of an asset. And when I say asset, let's call an asset a property, or an asset which is maybe equipment within a property. And we have to account for that scale that our clients operate at. And we have to account for being able to ingest data through just a flat file, which may be a 15-year-old mechanism, but we've got to do that. And we've got to ingest data in real time. Right. And so that's what we plan for. We plan for all the edge cases and everywhere in between, which then allows us to service our clients with real solutions that can deliver them value at scale.
Right. And so if you think about it from a cadence standpoint, as I think we both agree, probably both long careers in tech, I've never seen the pace, okay? So it's going 60 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour. The people, human beings, human nature, their ability to adapt to change, maybe going 20 miles an hour. And to get it from 20 to keep up with the 100, the change of technology, requires an insane amount of education and change management and just allowing the old engineer who's been doing the same thing for 25 years to adopt a new idea or a new concept. How, with an organization of that size, do you look to solve the problem of getting people closer to the speed of the change of technology?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. First and foremost, I think it goes back to what are you prioritizing? And in a situation of finite resources, if you've prioritized the most critical pain points, then the change management becomes easier. Easier, not easy.
Not easy. Right.
Second, of course, is just doing the hard yards around how do you educate, train, drive adoption, create success metrics. All of that needs to happen. In fact, even in our product development now, we've got early product feedback and product user groups, whether those are brokers or technicians. And then finally, I think this is what I was saying in the general session, is that a lot of the demand for change is coming from the consumer themselves. There was a time when corporate used to drive change, introduce new technology.
Yep.
Now the latest app that you've downloaded and the latest experience that you have is driving the experience and the expectation for everything that you want to experience in the workplace.
Well, so I have a knowledge of a certain situation of a real estate company who went to it was a mall, and they wanted to test new technology versus existing protocols and processes. So in a mall, where is the bathroom? Where is this restaurant, right? So they called the help number of this company and got bounced around, and finally a vice president was answering the question on where's this restaurant, right? And they timed it and they saw how long and hard it was. They took data from this organization's public website, accessible data, downloaded it into an LLM, asked the same question, and got like an instantaneous answer, okay? Right. So that's pretty radical, right? So the whole idea of property management and customer service, and think about in a mall, those people used to stand behind a desk. So let's say you tested an idea like that and you said, wow, we got the virtual avatar, we got the LLM for the property management, we can load it on a thumb drive, it doesn't have to be a big LLM. That's going to change thousands of malls across the world that you may touch. How do you educate all those property managers? Do you just say this is what it is? Do you get a stadium and bring them into an educational event? That's a complex process.
Yeah, well, first of all, that is such an amazing and interesting use case. And what we are finding through generative AI and large language models is this ability to query unstructured data, where suddenly all your data in an industry like ours, where there is documentation and paper everywhere, all of that data so far was dormant, and now suddenly there's a potential to bring it to life.
Yes.
And that is a phenomenal opportunity that we are sitting on. Now, of course, to your point that even if you deploy something interesting, how do you drive adoption around it? And adoption has always been a challenge in our industry. I do think that it goes back to the hard yards around, is there a group of individuals who are willing to experiment with you?
Right.
And if they are, then let's create a success story around it.
Yeah, and I honestly think one of the people you may want to get by your side near your office is a psychologist, right? Well, the reason being is there is a science that you could probably study an individual to understand how well they can adapt to change, how fast, because I believe that because technology is changing so fast, it's the human organizational issues that are the most important. Mm-hmm. Because if you have a great idea, it's best for the organization, and there's resistance just because that individual can't change a certain pace, that's, I think, going to be a major challenge, especially for big companies.
That always has been, Jim. I'll tell you a personal story. Growing up as a software engineer many moons ago, I used to always think that, I am doing the hard job. I'm writing code. I am developing product. The rest of them
Little did you know humans would touch that.
Of course, over time and with maturity and less hair, you realize that that the harder problem is driving real change and touching those humans and creating those success stories and creating those flywheels. I wish there was an easy answer.
I don't know if a guy named Jim McCullough is listening. This one's for you, Jim. When I first got into the business, I came out of IT and got in the real estate industry. I became a CIO for a real estate company. And the first thing was, this was, 1990. Okay, I can tell you how long I've been at this. And I sat down and I said, 1990, the first part of the strategy was every broker in the company was getting a laptop. 1990. Well, the guy named Jim McCullough, I'd walk down, and he was just a great broker, very successful. I think he's probably retired in Hawaii for the last 25 years. And he, I'd walk down the hall, he says, "Stay away from me, computer man."
Computer man.
But when my guys were on the stage at the awards banquet, right, I couldn't get the older guys, more serious guys, or experienced guys, so I said, well, I'm going to go to the young guys, and that year I think I had 60% of the award winners on the stage. He comes up to me, he says, "I think it's time for you to teach me how to use a laptop." But I had to realize I'm not going to change his mind. I had to go where, it was easier to get people willing to try it. But
Totally.
with an organization the size of CB, I gotta believe that the human side of adoption is really the big challenge.
Yeah. And your example from many years ago is so relevant even today that I am in no position to change anybody's mind.
Exactly.
It's the success stories that we'll create in the organization. When one broker group is going to see that another set of producers are far more effective.
Right. But that's a cadence, that's a process that we've all used for 30, 40 years. But with the speed of AI and everything that's coming, do we have to find a new methodology to get those people to adopt faster? I mean, that's my number one question, is this stuff is not slowing down, not moving, like Alon's slides of the videos, slow train, fast train. I just wonder, and I'm even struggling with keeping up with AI, and I understand tech, the average person working in their cube, it's going to be a hard challenge.
Yeah, and what we have seen is that if you hit a really interesting use case, or the ability to actually bring your data to life. This is where our multi-LLM product that we were talking about, LSAI, that's growing by about 500 to 1,000 users a week.
Wow.
Just because suddenly people are realizing, you know what, I am sitting on these lease documents or contracts or invoices and I can now query them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's that first meeting where you've prepared your Excel spreadsheets and you're all proud, and then somebody comes in and talks to their LLM and it responds and everybody goes, what was that?
Yes, yes. No, of course. Of course, you have to create traceability. You have to ensure that somebody is checking the output, that the product, it's not making up stuff. You've got to do all that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But it's going to get to the day where that governance is in place. The rails are up. People understand you got to test. Humans always should verify at the end. But yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, when they see each other people using the tools, the FOMO steps in, and that's when you get the knock on.
It's a powerful motivator.
In a lot of respect, things really haven't changed. I mean, humans are humans.
True.
But I do think what has changed is the speed. I mean, I came out of the mini computers, distributed PCs, was there for the internet, mobile. So I've watched how long it took from the inception of the idea to more major adoption. I don't think people are going to have a choice with AI.
Right.
I think it's going to be maybe half the time of mobile, a quarter of the time of the internet. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's going to drive dramatic productivity enhancements. We will do new things with it as well. Exactly what we'll do, we don't know, but there are clear, promising use cases even today that are live.
Well, I'm sure we're way out of time, and I haven't even been looking.
We could keep going. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, we will get together after, and I think after the conference, there's lots of opportunities for us to put different groups together. We're talking with the commissioner from GSA about doing some public-private partnerships. So hopefully you'll find a time to be involved with some of that stuff, because I do think the smartest people in the room, regardless of what sector, getting together to help usher in this new age, I think it would be helpful. And I really appreciate you finding time for the conference, the general session, doing this, and just being here. It means a lot to us.
Yeah, no, this is a great event, and thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.